This is a 1988 EA Falcon, and it used to be one of the slowest cars on the road, with a 3-speed auto and a wheezy centerfire injection engine making only 120 horsepower. Not anymore, because we've swapped in a 2008 Ford Falcon engine bolted up to a ZF 6-speed from a 2012 FG, but getting it running has not been easy. In this episode, we battle electrical gremlins, struggle through rough starts, misfires and stalling issues. And then we found something that was completely choking the car's performance. In this episode, we get to hear the car start up for the first time. But first, quick recap on what we've done to this car since we got it. Back in the year 2020, I bought this car for $500 sight unseen off Gumtree. I made the commitment and this is what it looked like when it rocked up. Rust, marks all over it, someone had used it but had been really poorly maintained. At this point I was committed, so there was no turning back. 99% of people would have taken this car straight to the bin, but I'm on a mission to save Australian cars, so I've committed to bring this thing back to a usable state and it can have many years of memories to come. I spent months cleaning this car up, replacing the seats and cleaning up the interior. I even got it back on the road. But after driving it around, those common Ford problems started rearing their ugly head. Leaky Welsh plugs, broken leads, oil leaks, and eventually the gearbox started to slip, and unfortunately the car wasn't drivable anymore. So we found a broken lead. I had a difficult choice to make. Do we keep this car original or do I engine swap it, which would modernize it completely? I ultimately had 4 engine options. The Barra from the BF with a ZF 6-speed transmission, the Intec from the mighty 2001 AU with the 4-speed BTR, or keep this stock centerfire injection engine and just completely rebuild it. I did a poll on my YouTube channel and the winner was the Barra engine with 63% of you choosing that, so here we are. The great thing about this car is it's super responsive now. In the last 2 episodes of this engine swap, we fitted the engine to the car and we also got the ZF transmission bolted up and in the car. We also installed a CAN Barra module, which is a little computer box which allows the newer BF Falcon ECU to communicate with the old Falcon analog dash. So we can see our speed, revs and other relevant information on the old original EA Falcon dash cluster. And because we're running the ZF 6-speed transmission from the FG Falcon, we've opted for the add-on of this little screen display, which shows us what gear we're in and a live display of the transmission temperature, which is crucial to monitor on these temperature sensitive ZF transmissions. And in the last episode, we got the car to the point where it was cranking over, but we couldn't get it actually started. So we had Bariscan come out, who is Melbourne's best Barra auto electrician. He's a specialist. Any ECU programming, transmission control module resets and syncing, audio upgrades and heaps more. His contact details are in description. He came out to give us a hand getting this beast started up for the first time. He debugged a whole bunch of issues, including the security enabled system PATs, and he also loaded in a petrol map to the ECU because currently this car thinks it's on gas. The engine wasn't getting fuel at all because it wasn't firing the injectors. It's amazing how using professionals like this can help so much. Also, a major issue that we had was the communication between the BF Falcon ECU and the FG Falcon transmission computer. Up until recently, you would have to have used a BF computer in the transmission as well as the engine for them to be able to communicate together. But Bariscan now has the programming technology to sync up the FG gearbox and the BF Falcon computer. So fortunately, he was able to hook all of this up on the spot. After many attempts of trying to start the car for the first time, we failed. Battery's gonna go next. That's all good. But Bariscan worked his magic, debugging a few little gremlins, and we finally got to hear this car start up for the first time. Let's go! Now that this car is starting off the key, it was a massive amount of work, persistence, troubleshooting that had finally paid off. I was determined to get the car driving now. But first we needed to pick up our custom tail shaft from JZ Drivelines in Somerton. Thomas is just doing at the back. So we're just marrying it up to the original diff for now. Surely this will have to be upgraded at some point. But the tail shaft has actually been lengthened, not shortened. And we had to get some custom bolts. It does not run a coupling at all. So pretty excited to take this thing for its first drive. We mounted the ZF shifter using part of the old transmission gear mount that Thomas custom made, and we had to drill a hole for the cable to run through to the gearbox. Finally, we could properly select gears in the cabin of the car. We popped the bonnet back on the car, and then we had to notch the underneath because the Barra is a very tall motor and it actually hits. And finally, the car is ready for its first test drive on the road. However, we discovered a very heavy exhaust leak. So we pulled the car into the carport and Thomas jumped underneath with our new welder, attempting to weld up part of a crushed muffler so this thing wasn't obnoxiously loud. So here we go for the first test drive.
It's working.
Oh shit. That immediately feels way more powerful.
Yeah, I know. It's pinned down.
The exhaust is leaking way harder than it used to.
Yeah.
Something wasn't right. The car seemed to be going into limp mode and the gears weren't shifting correctly. It's one thing getting a car running, but getting it running good is a whole nother story. I'm so happy with how this turned out. So we just took this thing down to GYG to get some food. And apart from a few little small things, it's running pretty good. Power steering's mint. We've gone over it. Doesn't really look like there's any major leaks. The only issue that we have is we wired in that wideband sensor right there and it's not showing like a short-term fuel trim. So it's like if we give it anything at all, it's like missing a little bit. I'll have to clean underneath here because we took that matting, the matting off because I had to actually cut those bars out there so it could fit. But I'm so happy, man. Look at that. AU airbox. Gas barrel up, made it up with the ZF. Let me show you inside. So the gear shift is sitting really high, but I actually prefer it there because it feels natural in the hand. So I'm thinking to get an EB console which has the back bit higher, and then we'll customize something for here, maybe some cup holders and then something to make. So we installed this aftermarket wideband sensor, which was the first of our issues. The computer was unable to successfully calibrate the air to fuel ratio, so we had to reinstall the factory narrowband sensor for it to work properly. Another major issue we have is that the transmission doesn't want to shift properly when under load. We took the car to Oz Prestige Auto for them to check it out and see what's going on. The mastermind behind it, Huss, pulled out the spark plugs and immediately noticed that there was some cheap brand and the gapping on the plugs was humongous. This was surely compromising the performance. I made my way over to Ford and picked up a set of genuine spark plugs and a brand new set of coils. And I took the car over to Sharp Exhaust where they fitted a brand new off-the-shelf standard EA exhaust. Why would you go standard, you might say? Eventually in the future, I will possibly turbocharge this car when it has the right supporting mods, but for now, I just want it to be nice and quiet and reliable, not loud and obnoxious. So I opted for a standard system. While driving, the car had a lot of knocks and rattles that were a little bit uncomfortable. So we also had Sharp Exhaust move the front sway bar forward 2 inches, which allowed the car to drive a lot more smoothly. Also, the car hadn't had any cosmetic love for a while, so I decided to buff the passenger side just to see how it would come up, and the shine came back pretty well. The driver side, however, needs the 2 doors replaced in the front guard, so I'm on the lookout for a clean set. The power of the car still didn't feel quite right. Something was just choking it up. With this newer engine, the power should easily be good, and I soon realized that there's a mechanism within the BF intake manifold that closes after 3,500 RPM and then opens up to make the runners longer. Only the NA versions have this, and after some research I found out that it does help with low end performance. We had a spare solenoid sitting around with some vacuum lines, and after a lot of mucking around I got this hooked up and working correctly as it should. But Bariscan had to actually wire it into the ECU to trigger, where we had to push out a pin to get it going correctly. However, the power still wasn't there. I had a random intuition that maybe it was a blocked catalytic converter, so I took the car back to Sharp Exhaust, and he immediately pointed out that this cat converter in the car was still the original from 1988. So he pulled it off and it was completely collapsed inside, which was choking up the flow and performance of this car drastically. So we fitted a high flow unit. It was almost like the car doubled its power immediately. We also had an issue with our voltage being quite low while driving, and we soon realized that the thermo fans that we'd installed were staying on no matter what temperature the car was on. And after rereading the instructions from Bill Hooton, we realized that Thomas had wired the triggers backwards, so it was good to get that hooked up properly. And while driving at around 100 kilometers an hour, it felt like the tail shaft had some pretty major vibrations. So I drove the car over to JZ Drivelines, where they double checked Thomas's tail shaft installation and redid it in a way that was 100%, and that helped a lot. These tires also had some old rubber, so we head over to Portelli Tires in Melton, where he hooked us up with a brand new set of Nexen 15-inch tires to make sure this car's got plenty of grip and safe on the roads. Check out this awesome EF Barra swapped XR6 he has. What a beast. Here's a little 0 to 100 run we did after the performance issues had been sorted. We also went over to Pro Street Race Engines and saw Dwayne to speak about Christian's engine build, the $10,000 giveaway winner who we're building a 1000 horsepower Barra engine for. And I asked him about a rocker cover. He had a spare one, so he hooked me up with one that I can paint up in the color that I want to fit to this Barra. Another small issue we had was the intake wasn't quite long enough. It kept popping off after a couple of drives. And I felt that the front shocks were getting a bit old too, so we replaced them with some brand new KYB units, which completely transformed the ride of the vehicle. At the moment, I don't have any intention to lower this car. I just want to keep it looking factory and original, as it takes the speed humps beautifully and rides really smooth. Here's Thomas giving the car a rev after the high flow cat was installed, so you can hear what it sounds like. You guys might remember we changed the Territory console in my Turbo Territory. Well, we used the junk console to see how it would fit up, and the back half fits perfectly, and it's the perfect height with the ZF shifter sitting where it is. We just have to make up something custom to marry the front of it to the EA dash, which Ryan from Elite Auto Upholstery is going to give us a hand with. And like it was meant to be, someone selling a BF intake that came off an E-Series popped up in my local area for a couple of $100 with a K&N filter and a little extension I needed so that intake wasn't popping off. So we picked that up and installed it to neaten up this engine bay a little bit further. The plan will be in the future to pull the engine back out again, neaten up the wiring, remove some of the old stuff that we don't need, give this engine bay a paint and get it looking presentable. But for now, we're just ironing out small issues, getting this car driving nice and smooth. Thomas jumped online and picked up a mini OBD port, Bluetooth device that allows us to check engine stats on the vehicle, and at the moment we're averaging around a 9 litre per 100 average, which is amazing. So this car is very efficient. That's all we have for this episode, so stay tuned for next episode where we improve this car further, get this console fixed up, paint up the rocker cover and get it fitted, neaten up the engine bay even more, and we're going to be comparing the performance of this car between a standard FG, an AU, and even an original centerfire injection EA. And check out the QR code for our latest giveaway, and at the time of filming this, we're giving away $10,000 credit for you guys to spend on your Ford or Holden project, whether it's going to paint job, engine builds, rust repairs, engine swaps, you name it, Holden or Ford, we're going to put this $10,000 towards it to improve your project car. If not, there's probably another car giveaway there. Chuck a like, comment if you want, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.